Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, it's the Triple Mashiest. Dragon's Milk Triple Mash is a 17% bourbon barrel-aged stout from New Holland Brewing in Holland, Michigan. This is the third of my Day of the Dragon reviews. Finishing out the trifecta here today is Triple Mash. You can find the previous two, the Scotch Barrel Aged and the Stroopwafel, linked in the description below this video. Now, Triple Mash here is going to stand on its own because those are both 11% and this one is a whopping 17%. That's right, 17%, not 70, thankfully, but 17%. Now, I was able to review last year's Triple Mash thanks to ASMR People on YouTube. I'll link that in the description below, as well as a link to ASMR People's YouTube page. So before I open this, I just want to say I'm really hoping, like if I could predict or hope for one thing before trying this, is that I'm hoping that it's going to be a little bit thicker than the previous two beers in this whole series that I've reviewed so far, you know, out of this whole Day of the Dragon release thing. But if the Scotch Barrel and the Stroopwafel are any indication, yeah, I don't think this is going to be very thick. So let's get this into a glass. But first, of course, we got to check out the label. So this is very similar, obviously, to all the other Dragon's Milk bottles that I've talked about, all the other labels. The difference is that with the higher ABV, this one lives at a little higher standard than the rest. So they have the gold label on here. If you look at the top, from the top to the bottom, we have New Holland Brewing in gold with a gold stripe on the bottle. Again, we have the dragon scale. This time, of course, the dragon is in gold. At the top, it says 17% ABV. This Dragon's Milk was established in 1997. The gold label says Dragon's Milk Triple Mash Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout. We look on the back, and it says Dragon's Milk Triple Mash. 2020 Triple Mash. Dragon's Milk Triple Mash is the ultimate indulgence, the result of years of honing technique and pushing the limits of what a stout can be. Aged for 1 year in New Holland spirits bourbon barrels, the flavors of Dragon's Milk, chocolate, roasted malt, coconut, vanilla, and oak are all amplified in a way that still allows for balance and refinement to shine through. Then it says alcohol 17% by volume, dragonsmilk.com, proudly brewed in Holland, Michigan, the craft beer independent logo, and then New Holland Brewing. I do remember trying this last year, and from what I can remember from last year, it was like, you know, like a bourbon barrel or a bourbon. I'm not a big bourbon drinker. I only know bourbon through what bourbon barrel aged beer tastes like. I think of last year's Triple Mash as being like a bourbon drinker's beer. Let's see if we say the same thing about this year. So I'm going to use my Dragon's Milk stemless snifter glass here. We're going to go ahead and crack this open and put a nose on the bottle. Again, very, very exciting to see the vapor rise up out of this bottle. Putting a nose on the bottle. It's got a sweet aroma to it. I'm getting a roasty smell directly out of here. I am getting almost like a barrel aroma out of here as well. But yeah, all right. So we're gonna go right in. So let's go ahead and pour this. It does look a little thicker, but that's not saying much because these last Dragon's Milk have been very thin. And the head or the carbonation rises up really quickly. And then as you can see from the overhead view, it really just kind of peters out very quickly. There is still, maybe at the height, I had about a finger and a half worth of head. Now I have less than a half a finger. I'd say we're going to settle with half a finger. And the head itself is, you know, the beer itself is so dark underneath, but the head really kind of betrays that. It doesn't really look very dark. The head itself is just a little bit dark. It's like a darker off-white, maybe just a hair under kind of khaki. So it's not really all that dark. And now as I've been talking, this head is totally gone. So let's go ahead and hold this up to the light. Really pretty dark, pretty close to pitch black. Maybe it's a little bit, a shade on the gray, on the brown side. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to see through that. It's opaque. And putting a nose on the glass. Yeah, just getting a dark fruit aroma, a lot of molasses, a lot of roasty malts. Like I said, maybe a little bit of a barrel. kind of characteristic in there. I'm not getting much bourbon smell though. It doesn't smell very boozy. Sometimes with bourbon barrel aged beers they can smell a boozy, but I'm gonna go ahead and try it, and I'll let you know if it tastes boozy. Cheers. Okay. What I said about all that thickness stuff and it being, hopefully it was going to be thicker than the Scotch barrel and hopefully it was going to be thicker than the Stroopwafel, it is. It's definitely a lot thicker than both of those beers. And that's reassuring because when I poured it, it didn't look like it was going to be super thick, but it actually has a nice thicker mouthfeel. It's almost borderline syrupy, so it really coats your tongue. It's got a nice kind of texture on there. It's, it just covers your tongue really well. And we'll talk about the taste here. A lot of flavor. This is bursting with flavor. Now, it has a lot of these dark fruit flavors, a lot of dark chocolate flavors, a lot of roasty, malty flavor, and it's all really just kind of explodes all at once. It totally all at once covers my entire tongue, and it's like whoosh, like this extreme explosion of flavor right in my mouth. Let's go ahead and get one more taste here. Like I said, I get a lot of dark fruit. I get a lot of roasty, malty flavors in there. It's got maybe a little bit of a smoky characteristic. What else is in there? Getting almost this dark black licorice kind of flavor on the finish. And it's borderline, it's got like a boozy character to it, but if you were to pour this and tell me that it was, not tell me what percent it was, I probably wouldn't say it was 17. I'd maybe say, maybe higher, 12 to 15, like in that range. It's not super duper like over the top boozy. It is a little bit boozy that you can tell it's a high ABV beer, but it doesn't taste like you're getting, 17%. It's just got a really sweet flavor to it. And I guess maybe that's where my inexperience with bourbon comes in, because I want to say that that's what I'm getting are these sweet kind of bourbon notes, but I don't drink bourbon, so I don't know exactly if that's all that I'm getting, but I am getting a really nice dark fruit flavor, a really nice vanilla flavor really in there. I'm getting some chocolate, some dark chocolate notes, some almost not quite raisiny dark fruit flavor, but it definitely has a dark fruit flavor. And I am getting a little bit of a bourbon flavor, and I'm getting a little bit of the oaky kind of character. That's when I was saying smoky before. I think the smokiness that was actually tasting is more of the oak, the barrel. I can tell you for sure, this is a real sipper. I couldn't sit and drink like swig for swig for swig for swig and just finish this. Number one, I think that would be kind of disrespecting this beer. I feel like it's something that you need to kind of sip and relax and drink. And when I was talking everything about last year's version, I wasn't overly impressed with last year's version, but this year's version I think is really pretty good. I would say out of all the three Day of the Dragon, the Scotch Barrel, the Stroopwafel, and this one, I think I like this one the best. The Stroopwafel has a lot of characteristics that I like. I like that sweetness. I like the cinnamon. I like the vanilla flavor that's in that. The Scotch Barrel one I felt kind of fell a little bit flat. It was more like a regular Dragon's Milk with a little bit of a Scotch flavoring in it. It didn't really do a whole lot for me. This one is really something that you need to experience. And I know that's tough because this is really limited. And it's a 180 from me from last year, because last year I felt it was really thin. I felt like it was flavorful but very kind of boozy. And I felt like after, maybe now in hindsight, I'm thinking more like I didn't really understand what all the fuss was about. And I came into this one kind of expecting like, okay, it's going to be like last year. It's going to be really thin. The ABV is going to be so bumped up, and it's going to be, whatever. It's just going to thin out the beer. But this one, they've reclaimed the mouthfeel. It's really it's a lot thicker this year. This is probably one of the thickest Dragon's Milk that I've had like in years, at least in the last year and a half, maybe before that. So if you can find triple mash, I think it's definitely like the crowning achievement of the most recent Dragon's Milk. I think, again, I think it's the best of the 3 Day of the Dragon releases. I think it's probably one of the better ones that I've had for, geez, I don't even remember. The Maple Oak one was pretty good, or the Maple Oak, I think is what it was. I like that one quite a bit, but I like this one better. I think previous to that, the one that I would say was a high point was the Banana Coconut, but I felt like maybe that was probably a little bit thin too. This one's nice and thick. You got a lot of flavor. It's super bursting. This is one that I would share with friends, not one that I would necessarily want to sit and drink, you know, maybe more than one on my own. But it's definitely a share. It's definitely a sipper. It's an experience that you want to share with a few people. And if you get the chance to try this one, this is definitely one that you should be on the lookout for. And I've been forgetting to do this on camera until I'm done. So this is after the fact. I just wanted to tell everybody, in case anybody was curious, what the temperature was that I was recording, or that I tried this at. We're going to put the thermometer in, let it drop there for a second. It's, 70 some degrees at this point, but it's dropping. These you want to serve between about 50 and 55 so you get the fullest flavor, like all the flavor in there. I put this one in the fridge for maybe about an hour after being room temperature, maybe an hour and a half. I'm sitting at, I'm going to let it stop here, but because it hasn't really moved, but I'm sitting at 57 degrees, again, a little bit higher than what you probably want, like ideal, but I think the flavor in this is totally all there, even at the 57 degrees, excuse me. A perfect temperature for this beer, and, you know, even colder, I could imagine it maybe being a little bit duller, but I think this is a 50, like up in the higher range, that higher, you know, up to maybe 50, 60. I think that's a perfect temperature range for this kind of beer. All right, friends, that has been 2020's Triple Mash. Have you had this one before? Have you been able to try all the Day of the Dragon releases? Have you been able to try any of them? Do you have a favorite if you've been able to try all of them? Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And while you're down there, if you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell, because I'm here talking about beer twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've been throwing out these little beer briefs here and there. So sometimes you'll get 3 or 4 videos a week. And I'd hate to miss your newest favorite if you're not subscribed and getting those notifications. So subscribe and share them with your friends. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, drink craft beer. Support your local breweries wherever they are. Anyone's local to you, support local breweries. And most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little Draft Therapy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.